Hello, and welcome to the Borealis Experience. I'm your host, Aurora, and I'm very happy to be spending some time with you today again. Last time, we talked about what it means to be a good friend. I said listening is one of the most important things to keep in mind, and being aware of what kind of vibe, energy you are sending out. Because sometimes, especially if we're not in our teens anymore, if we are in our 20s or 30s, we went through some stuff. And sometimes it happens that we project things onto people, and in doing so, distorting reality and not giving the other person a real chance to show up as who they are. And that makes it very difficult in relationships in general, not in friendships only. So today I want to talk about boundaries. Boundaries, I found out for myself after very, very much time, many years. Being able to set boundaries in friendships, relationships, in your family, being able to respect boundaries from others is so critical when interacting with people. And then also how we express our needs. What are our needs? And how do we get our needs met is also a very interesting thing to look at. So let's start with boundaries. Where is your limit? Where do you tell people to F off? Where do you draw the line? When do you need time to recharge your batteries? Or are you an endless source of energy and never tired out, never in a shitty mood, never resentful or such? If that's the case, I don't believe you, because we all have our limits. And I feel a lot of people struggle with finding out what their limits are with themselves, and then what their limits are with other people. So when do we start expressing boundaries? I feel that it starts very, very early on already, but it depends sensitively on your caregivers, how you, when you were very little and started showing character traits, how you were treated when you did. So let's take an example. You didn't want to go to bed at 6 o'clock. You wanted to stay up with the adults. And your caregiver tells you, no, this is not okay. You have to go to bed early tonight. And this is what's going to happen. So you either throw a tantrum or you accept it, you understand it, and that's it. So that's when the caregiver has your best interest in mind, and for you it feels kind of boring and bad, but you actually see the sense then, and then submit kind of thing. And then there is my favorite example, auntie comes over for a visit, and it is a habit in your family that you kiss each other on the cheeks to say hi, but you don't feel like it. You want to shake the hand or just say hi from a distance, and your caregiver kind of guilts you into giving that auntie that kiss. So what happens then in your mind is that you're not allowed to say no, and it is very sensitive, especially for girls, but also for boys when it comes to physical touch, that if they learn early on that they have no voice and have to just please the other party, then you can see maybe already from the outside, it can be grounds for a troublesome relationship with yourself, and where to draw the line, when to say no, is going to be very difficult for you. So those were just very simplified examples of where you can see, in one case, drawing the boundary, sending you to bed early is kind of annoying, but it is okay. You will maybe in the future have the habit to care about your good sleep. And the second example is about having your boundary violated, let's say, for the benefit of harmony or someone else. So if you look at your childhood, how did your caregivers react to you setting boundaries, your siblings, your friends? And how do you set boundaries today? Can you see parallels? Was there a significant event that happened where you kind of had to fight to set a boundary, or there was a big fight because you set a boundary? In relationships, friendships, in your family, romantic relationships, and even with acquaintances, I can see a lot of times that people are totally run down and drained at the end of the day because they were not able to communicate clearly what their boundaries were. And people have very, very different ways of reacting to boundaries. It can be impatience, like plain anger in your face. It can be very subtle passive aggressiveness or condescending comments. And there can also be very positive reactions, so very respectful and caring and maybe even curious when the person can't quite relate to your boundary but wants to respect it. And those experiences are the ones where you then actually see, oh my God, that person wants to get to know me, that person cares about me. And that's also when we become softer with our boundaries. There's people who, when they get to know another person, sometimes have very strict boundaries, and the better they know the person, the more they trust, the softer they get with their boundaries. And with people who have no boundaries at all, and they enter relationships, it is very difficult to kind of go back and then set boundaries, because the other person might not understand what happened and feels pushed away. And that can in turn trigger huge reactions of fear of abandonment and resentment, and then you are kind of convinced that setting boundaries is a bad idea anyways. So that last part was for people who have very soft boundaries from the get-go, and then all of a sudden a couple months in feel like, oh shit, actually I need more time for myself, or I don't want to hang out that much. I love that person, but I need different things. So you can maybe see again from the outside it's obvious, but when you're in it, it's very different. When you start out with setting your boundaries, so let's say there's a person in your family that always repeats him or herself, or they always bring up the same story about you in your childhood that makes you feel really small and shitty. And now next Christmas you decide to bang on the table and just tell them to fuck off. That, of course, is not going to work. And it's for me still the hardest to, when something comes up that I don't want in my life anymore, how do I express it? How do I communicate it in a way that the person can not lose their face and react in a way that is appropriate And in saying that, I must say you can never influence the reaction of a person. It is really up to them then. So let's take that family dinner. That relative does the thing that annoys you so much, and now you want to set a boundary. You can just keep it like very low key and say, maybe in person, one-on-one, this really doesn't make me feel good. I don't like when you do that. Or in front of other people, I would kind of not suggest to address it. So as you see, it's a difficult thing to get started, and you should start small. But once you get started and communicate your boundaries, people will behave differently around you and even respect you more, or totally vanish out of your life. That can happen too, because some people are not good receiving like boundaries and rules on how to treat you. You don't want to get rid of relationship. You want to alter them, change them, and that can sometimes let you sit in awkwardness. And I can just recommend, if you can communicate them in a kind way and the situation is still awkward, stick to your guns and trust that it's going to be received at some point. And if not, that person was not meant to be in your life. So how is it when you receive boundary setting from another person? Can you respect it, or do you feel rejected and bad? Have a look at it over the next couple of days. And when you see that there's emotions coming up, fear coming up, just think about my little episode here, and I think it might greatly help you. We will talk about this way more in the future. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and take really good care of yourself. This was the Borealis Experience. Sending my love out there. My name is Aurora. Bye-bye.